Hello, hello to my True Blue crew. It is so good to be with you on Whip Wednesday. We have a dedicated time to sit and sew and get those projects done. I don't know about you, but I have a quilt bucket list, to-do list, projects started and not finished. That list is about a mile long, so I need to get to work. Hello, Annette. How are you? Hope you are doing well. And I am using this week to continue my year-long project, which is a temperature quilt. And for those of you that have not been on a live sewing chat with me yet this year, I started tracking all the temperatures in my hometown, which is Phoenix, Arizona, where it is getting hot, hot, hot here in the middle of May. But I am recording all of the temperatures with my half rectangle triangle units. And I'm doing these, I haven't decided yet if they'll be horizontal or vertical. I'm thinking horizontal months across the quilt. And then I'll add some spacing and borders to make it a nice size, because 30 units across and only 12 down, you have to play with the math a little bit. But this is what I've got done so far. You can see in my workspace camera for April. We started off with some cool mornings and we've gotten up here. This orange is my 90s. And, or no, this peach here, let me do it this way. Yellow is 80s, peach is 90s, and this orange is actually my hundreds because I'm looking over here at this pile. I cut some more triangles since we've gotten up into the hundreds. So still nice and pleasant here, 60s most mornings. So that's really nice weather. Hello, Kathy. You know what? If you haven't recorded the temperatures, you can find the historical data. So if you wanted to choose like your birth year and do all the temperatures, you could go back on the internet is a great collector of information. You can find it. And I use the website weatherunderground.com. So the word underground.com. And you can put in your city and it has the historical data. Now, modafabrics.com has a cute little spreadsheet, and they've got little boxes for all of the months. So I'm just using that to record. And you can plan out your colors. And if you wanted to actually put a swatch there, I've just got mine all grouped together here. So I am keeping each month separate. So I have several check marks that I make on my spreadsheet as I go along. And I just want to double check that I've gotten all of April. Okay, so I ended on the 14th and that was checked off. So now I need my 290s days. So I've got those here. And I am in love with half rectangle triangles. That is my go-to unit. I am a quilt pattern designer. I've published a couple books and I've been featured in, had patterns published in magazines. And there's a ton of stuff over on truebluequilts.com, my website. But I love playing with these half rectangle triangle units. They take a little more effort for trimming and piecing. And actually, I'm going to do these one at a time just to be accurate. And I need to stand up when I cut. Things just work out better. So I've got this special ruler that I had made so that it works with the size half rectangle triangles that I am doing. And if you want a full tutorial that you can watch on your own time and, you know, pause and rewind and all that good stuff and get my free tip sheet, I'd love for you to register for the Fall in Love with Quilting Club. There is a link in my video description, and I have a free tutorial back in February. But once you join the club, you can access all the trainings all year long. So I've got one in February. I'm debuting another one in June. Is it coming up in June? I think so. I'll have to check my notes and get my newsletter out. So you can find out all about these half rectangle triangles. But this is my exclusive ruler that has these special guidelines. I'm trying to get them to show up there without too much glare from the overhead lights. But you can kind of see that line running across, and there are special markings down in this corner for the units I'm doing. So I can trim these little blocks and catch up with chat. Hello, Deb. Hello, Amanda. Thanks for tuning in. We've already said hi to Kathy and Annette. So nice to see everyone. Are we getting to the end of the school year for my friends who are teachers? It is graduation week. Actually, my daughter is out with her boyfriend, graduated from high school today. So it is that season here. But I know Arizona schools are, the schedule's a little bit off from the East Coast friends, because we don't have snow days to worry about, obviously. And we start early in August for our school year. So you can see well, maybe you can see I've got a generous, 1/4 inch on both sides of my units that I am trimming away. So some people got much waste might bother them, but I find it much easier to be accurate if I start oversize and cut down for my half rectangle triangles. But they're just, they're that little bit different unit, and you can just have a lot of fun with that. And Karen's in the house. So good to see you. Okay. Last week I was over on my friend Amber's channel, the Cheeky Quilter, and she actually goes live right after this. So when we're done here, we'll hop over and say hi to Amber as well. Give her some love as she is growing her channel. My units are going to finish at 2x3. So you can use my method to make any size half rectangle triangle. You just want to start with fabric that is 1 inch to 1.5 inches bigger than what you want for your final dimensions. So I'm starting with, I cut rectangles to make these units that you see across my workspace. Those were 3.5 by 4.5, so that by the time they get cut down and I have the seam allowance, they'll finish at 2x3. Yes, Amanda, happy hump day. Okay, so let's get back. Here's my April strip, and I am going to continue adding my next day onto my whole month so that I can keep things organized as I am sewing here. And it just, it's one of those things, instant gratification. I like getting to the final step rather than doing all the components in a big, long session. I like to see my progress. So then I'll have this one and this one. So it's been so fun to see the different colors. Since I picked the whole palette at the beginning, and I did do a preview video for that. So you can find that back in, if you scroll back to my January videos, I introduced or just search temperature quilt for True Blue Quilts. Oh yeah, I want this because it was. I'm just talking to myself to figure out which fabric is going to be the right side up. Because I want the high temperatures to be on the upper right corner, and then the low temperatures are the bottom left. As you look across here, these greens are the lows, and the peaches and oranges are the highs. So I'm going to have to invest in some additional, or just raid my stash more than I've done already, because I don't like the exact same fabric just day after day after day. I want to make each color family scrappy. So Amanda was asking about my patriotic diamond blocks, and I do have those set aside. I finished all of these. These were made with jolly bars. Same process for half rectangle triangles, but jolly bars from the Fat Quarter Shop are 5 by 10. So you could cut a layer cake in half and use those as your starting rectangles. But yeah, I need to get this all finished and written up. So that was a lot of fun. And I want to do some math and see, I have an idea for some stars actually from the half rectangle triangles. And I have to do the math to see how big a quilt you could get from the layer cake. Yes, the half rectangle triangles are a lot of fun, Amanda. You should give it a try. And you see this polka dot fabric that I have peeking out. I've got it sewn right here. That is what I chose. I'm trying to get a nice focused view. You can see it's got almost all the different little speckles of fabric. And that's what I'm using for my rainy days. Now, the weather website shows 0 precipitation for Phoenix in most of April and May. But I'm throwing in these blocks because there have been all these days I have, with my own eyeballs, seen raindrops on my car windshield. So that counts for me. And I'm going to do a little write-up for the quilt label, and I'll explain that, that there was no measurable precipitation, but the polka dot blocks represent raindrops on my windshield. So I make a check mark when I've made the rectangle unit, and then I make another check mark when I add it to my row. So I've got those done. Okay, so now there's that. And 60. So looking across my workspace, the purple is 50s. And so I've got my 50 degrees, 60, 70, 80, 90, and 100 for my colors. And when I pair up my triangles, I'm looking for 2 mountain peaks. If I've got this fabric lined up perfectly, so that it's just a triangle on top of a triangle, it's not going to open up to be a rectangle. makes a different shape. So you don't want that. I mean, and with the 2x3 measurement, it doesn't look that off. So you have to be really careful that you're always looking for mountain peaks when you get ready to sew. And that is the basic trick to half rectangle triangles. I'm going to be having a sew along in July for some of my half rectangle triangle blocks from the my quilt is called the Fast Track Sampler. You can see that on my website. And we're going to just have a lot of fun playing with these half rectangle triangles and making seeing how they affect classic quilt blocks, and have a nice throw size quilt when you're done. And it's a good size for Quilts of Valor. So if you want to work on a patriotic project with me this summer, that is one idea. So now I've got a big stretch that are all the same. 1, 2, 3, 4 blocks that are all 90s and 60s. And I want to get a good little stack done, and then I'll do a bunch of trimming all at once. So I'm not switching back and forth too much. And hello, Dawn. Karen. I finished and entered my Abyss challenge. That's for the Cherrywood Fabrics 2025 challenge. So I got that done in plenty of time. There is a word right in that row. The contrast isn't showing up quite. If I focus my eyes and squint a little bit, I can see it. It says still water runs deep. So I was working on that project, doing the paper piecing on these Wednesday lives a few months ago to make sure I finished that in time. And now I just wait to see if they are going to accept my quilt for the traveling show, because Cherrywood, whenever they are a vendor at a major quilt show, they put all of their challenge quilts on display. So crossing my fingers. Okay, Annette, have a good night. Get some rest, feel better. Karen, it's not necessarily a winning thing. There's no prize other than having your quilt on display with the others, but it would I'm pleased because I brought my vision to life, which is my goal in a challenge. You get the parameters, you want to see if you can design something that fits within whatever the challenge may be, and then you want to see if you can meet that challenge. So just having this finished quilt is I'm very pleased with it. So um, thank you. I appreciate all the good wishes, and I hope the judges see some uh, appeal in this. I'm imagining there are going to be all sorts of fabulous art quilts, with the applique and embellishments, and mine's fairly simple, but hopefully that will fit the theme as well. Just got a couple more days here in April. I'm trying to get the colors matched up for, and then we'll have another trimming session. So tell me about your projects. Who's working on multiple quilt projects at the moment? I've set myself up with several block of the month. Obviously, the temperature quilt kind of works as a block of the month. I can make big chunks at a time. And I'm doing several cotton cuts projects, so that's been fun as well. Oh, and then this is going to be, I can't quite get to the end of April because I need, as you can see, I've depleted my pile of 60-degree green, light green fabric triangles. I was trying to prep before I came on camera and didn't, thought I had enough, but we'll see. Okay, so this is like the first 17 days of April. Dawn, too many projects. Yay, but you got to the quilting stage on a baby quilt. That sounds good. And paper piecing, that's always fun. Oh, and Amanda is working on a guild block. An Ohio Star in Purple. Gee, that sounds familiar. I just did one of those. If you saw my video last weekend, I was working on some star blocks. And Corey Yoder has beautiful blocks. I'm looking at Karen's list of projects. You ladies are, we're mind meld with all these projects. I have at least 5 going at any one time. Vintage Christmas, that is a lot of fun. And then Disappearing 9 Patch. Oh, those just all are very fun. Okay, so now I've got these. You can see my mountain peaks appearing. And one of my other works in progress has been the pattern Northern Lights from So Kind of Wonderful. And it is a project that immediately appealed to me because it also features half rectangle triangles. But they have their own special ruler, which of course I bought because I wanted to see how their method compared to mine. And the quilt is almost done, and I'm going to have to take some time and walk everybody through the process. I love their patterns. Their patterns are definitely written for visual quilters, and you probably want to have some experience quilting because they give you a diagram of one section of the quilt, and it's all labeled with the colors and the pieces, but it doesn't have written instructions like step 1, sew these pieces in this order. You kind of have to figure it out from the diagram. And so, you have to understand kind of how to work inside out on a quilt, because you can't attach the outside edge until the inside edge is done, that kind of thing. So a beginner might get a little lost with that type of pattern, but I found it, obviously I've been quilting for 20 years. I can figure out a diagram, or at least I can put it together and be happy with the result from a diagram. And their ruler is good for that pattern. I want to experiment a little bit and see if I can do other sizes with that ruler. I was a little disappointed with the quick straight ruler from So Kind of Wonderful, because you have to put your own like stickers or tape or something to highlight the measurements. And I was hoping that it would be something like my ruler that has the seam lines already diagonally marked, and it does not. Oh, thank you, Karen. She must be following me on Instagram. I've shared some pictures of Northern Lights. It has been a really fun project. I'm anxious. I'm just on the center seams, and I have a sew day at my local shop. It's not my shop. I just hang out there quite a bit. We have a sew day there at the shop this weekend, so I should be able to get it sewn together. And then I get to Wednesday and I feel like I've wasted the week, but with doing no long arm quilting. For a while last fall, I was able to shut my computer off for work and go quilt for an hour at the long arm, but I've started exercising. I've started exercising this spring, and so that has become my gym time, although I think I'm going to switch to lunch, use my lunch hour as my gym workout, because right after work, which for me is 3:30 to 4:30 in the afternoon, guess who else is at the gym at 3:30? All the high school boys, and I don't need to have my middle-aged belly hanging out trying to work out around all these boys that are goofing off and, pretending they're, Hulk Hogan or something. I really wish curves were still around, because I loved that women only. You could go in, and I tried to tell myself, no one is looking at me. Everybody's concentrating on their own workout, which is what I do. I'm not looking around judging everybody else. I'm there to do my own stuff. But we all get those kind of hang-ups about worrying about what other people think. So if there is a way to avoid it, we just need to get a little creative with our scheduling. That one's cutting it a little close. We can make it work. Okay, as I said earlier in the show, I am using my little bit different ruler that is specially marked for these 2x3 half rectangle triangles. So you can use this ruler to make anything from 1 by 1.5, 2 by 3, 4 by 6, 6 by 9. All of those size rectangles are proportionate to the 2 by 3 size. And so these markings will help you cut as long as your finished measurement is a multiple of 2 by 3. And that's how half rectangle triangles work. You can make them any size. Like I could make a 1 by 4 half rectangle triangle. I could make a 2 by 6. I could make a 4 by 7, whatever ratio of numbers you want to work out for the sides of your rectangle. It's just that diagonal line is going to be on a different angle, and that's why you have to have a different ruler or template for those different sizes, because this 2 by 3 ruler will not work for a 4 by 8. I would have a different angle coming across the middle. And so the way you compensate for that is, if you want to just use a regular ruler, you put painter's tape or something on the measurements that you want, and you then can line it up on the seam line like I'm doing here. So you do not have to buy my ruler or the one from So Kind of Wonderful. You can do it with your own, regular OmniGrid or Fiskars or whatever Quilters Select, whatever ruler you have, you can give yourself some guidelines and make it work. I just developed this one because I knew I was making dozens of the same size half rectangle triangle, and having that tape and all the extra lines on a regular ruler was kind of making me crazy. So I was able to, I know a guy, I'm friends with a company that makes quilt rulers and templates. So I just had a discussion with them and manufactured my own ruler. You can do the same thing with the template plastic. You can get vinyl pieces and use a Sharpie and draw out whatever shape you want. And then you can use that as your guide for cutting. Hello, Katie and Andrea, Mama J. Okay, so let me get rid of my scraps and then get my monthly row back out and figure out where I left off. Okay, so we had 70 and then we have 80. Okay. Okay, so I've got all my pieces laid out the way I'm going to sew them together. And I don't know if I said it out loud. I always press my seams open on half rectangle triangles because that angle is so sharp. And when I was at QuiltCon, I got this little wedge tool that helps me finger press. So I just use that nice flat edge to run across the seams, and then I can do all my pressing here at the sewing machine without heating up my room. So that is a bonus on these warm summer days. I have to keep double checking and talking to myself to make sure I've got these in the right order. Although no one is ever going to know. If it's messed up, but I want it to work out. Katie has been, the Greenland quilter, has been working on a courthouse steps and woven stars, starry staircase. What are you calling that quilt, Katie? I used the same woven star papers to do paper piece blocks last fall, and then I got the quilting all messed up. So I have to have an extensive date with Jack the Ripper before I can show off my quilt that used the woven star blocks, but they were a lot of fun to put together. And oh yes, the Star Climber. I'm really enjoying your series. So if we have some paper piecing fans, go check that out from the Greenland Quilter. It's a very beautiful, uh, very beautiful pattern, and I'm loving that. Reading back through the comments, Amanda was asking about t-shirts, and the one I have on today, let me stand up a little bit so you can see it a little better. It says 3 blocks won't make a quilt, but they will make a table runner. So I was chatting one day on my live, and we all got a kick. I said that kind of randomly, and we all got a kick out of it. And it was, oh, that should be a t-shirt. So this saying is available on my website, truebluequilts.com. You can choose your own color. If you like this kind of mottled, marbly fabric, you can choose that style, or you can get a plain t-shirt. But all my other quilting t-shirts are from Maker Valley. Maker Valley. They have a lot of sewing themed quilt t-shirts, and really soft, nice cotton t-shirts. They're wonderful. So, wow, I'm looking back. Katie's doing 4-inch finished. Mine were 6-inch. So, that would be some small piecing if you're doing 4-inch blocks. So let's see, that covers our attire. This is the I'm double checking okay, so we have the rain, and then I had 70s, and then I had the 80s, and then I had 2, 3, 4, 5 90-degree days. We were talking about fun t-shirts, which reminded me of another kind of collectible. Like, I collect sewing t-shirts, and there's another Heartland stitches. I've seen some posts on Instagram. I'm gonna have to go back and find them. They've got a patriotic line of quilting t-shirts. Like, they have one that's like a line drawing of Betsy Ross, and then they've got a Lemoyne star with red, white, and blue, really patriotic kind of stars and stripes effect. And so I'm thinking those need to be my summer t-shirts. And I think it was Heartland stitches. I'm trying to find my other device. But the other collectible thing is, have you seen Carolina Moore's quilter trading cards? I thought she's brilliant in terms of different products for the quilt industry. And she just released this set of collectible cards, like the Pokemon craze or baseball cards back in the day. And so she's featuring different quilt designers, which I thought was going to be really fun. Okay, so I'm on my iPad. I am looking up, let's see, Heartland. Is it Heart? Nope. There's a lot of Heartland stitches and stitchery, but not what I was thinking of for the t-shirts. Oh, Amanda, you'll have to let us know how Carolina's quilting earring patterns work out. I've really simplified my earrings. Working from home, you don't need to accessorize. So half the time I'm not even wearing earrings, but I've simplified my earrings down to two choices. I have a silver pair and a gold pair. And I just one less decision to make. So I'm searching for quilting shirts. Um, Tags. Let's see. What? I see lots of quilting shirts, but not the ones I'm thinking of. Um, let's see, Ross t-shirt. Ugh. So here's the keywords, folks. If you have any type of online business, make sure you would think that Betsy Ross t-shirt would get me the image that I've been searching for, and it doesn't. Quilting. Now I'm wasting all this time doing this search to. There's some. Okay, now I'm down a rabbit hole. Um, Dovetail Threads comes up with a lot of them, but that wasn't the one I recently saw. I will have to save it the next time I see. And if anybody finds a Betsy Ross quilting t-shirt, tag me on Instagram, because I'm not seeing it. Okay, enough of that. Okay, my daughter just texted me. Let's see what she wants. She wants me to wrap a present for her boyfriend. Okay. Let's see. 80, 70, 80. Okie doke. Here again is April. We started off, greens are, yeah, this side is the high temperatures, 60s and 70s, 80s, 90s. We had a couple 100-degree days, and then it cooled back off. I saw some sprinkles one night, and then you can see we had a big drop in the temperature there. We were back down into the 70s and 80s. And immediately warmed back up. And so we have this long stretch of my orange shades, and then just, the random cooler day. And that is April for the temperature quilt. So I've been keeping up pretty well. And now that we're, a third of the way through the year, I've got my fourth row, I can start putting an overall design together. I've been contemplating finding some cactus fabric to use as a border. I don't know if I want to do just like a plain black. Might set that off pretty well. Just do a thin strip of black, and then that black could be at the end of the month. Obviously February is going to be the shortest month, so it would have a section of black at the end to square it off even with the other months. And then I could put that cactus as the border, and I could start putting some rows together. I had even contemplated and mentioned putting some strips of novelty fabric, like snowflakes next to January, hearts next to February, shamrocks next to March, and try and get those themes for the months going. And that would help extend the size of the quilt. So I'll just have to see. And then I talk myself out of it. I'm like, just let it be the 12 rows and it'll be more of a wall hanging size, because my grand idea was to mail it to one of the local weathermen and just, give it away as a fun random thing. And then, maybe they'll have me on the news. I can talk about quilting for one of those fun weatherman segments. Because we've got a couple of weathermen here in Phoenix that have been around like almost the 25, 30 years that I've lived here. It's pretty amazing when you've got those hometown newscast personalities. So that's a lot of fun. But we have, as I was saying earlier in the broadcast, Wednesday nights are a fun night for live streams. We can wrap up here and head over to The Cheeky Quilter and say hi to Amber. She goes live right after me, and my husband comes home from work between 5 and 6, and we like to sit down and, have dinner together and stuff. So I try to get my live stream done before he gets home. And then Amanda, Stitching Life Together, go subscribe to her channel too, because she goes live on Thursday nights. And so we'll be able to get together tomorrow for her lives. And I see a lot of you on Saturday mornings on Sean, the guy who sews, his channel, and Donnell's Stitchery. I know she's live throughout the weekend. I tend to be busy with other stuff on Monday and Tuesday night. So if that's your typical live stream night, I am terribly sorry I don't pop in to say hi. But it's always fun to see what everybody's working on. And I need to get back to my floral states of America. I've got all the blocks done. I want to do some applique on a couple of them before I put the rows together, because do I have them right here? Let me find one that I labeled. Yes. So like this one, I labeled with a archival fabric pen, and it worked really well for Indiana because the block had white fabric. They did not include white fabric for the Arizona block. So I'm thinking about using my machine to do just some machine applique so that I have the name and the flower. You let that focus there so that I can put the name of the state and the flower on all the blocks. And yes, Katie is live Thursday, Friday, Saturdays. So check out her channel as well. Watch her progress on the Star Climber quilt. That would be a great scrapbuster quilt, Katie. Those courthouse steps blocks and the woven stars are so much fun. And yes, I adore these floral states fabrics. And I did get the panel, so I'm going to use that on the back of all the state blocks. The one thing, and you have, if anybody's thinking about doing a cotton cuts quilt, they send you all the pre-cut pieces. So you can see what happened here. Some of my cactus are going sideways on the block when everything else lines up. There was no way to get that pre-cut piece to turn around and go the right side up. So Cotton Cuts has their new fabric mystery quilt. All the fabric selections are coming out for their new mystery quilt. And so you need to study those swatches carefully, because if there are some stripes or anything that looks like it might be directional, you don't get to choose. You do not get to fussy cut those fabrics to make sure they all line up straight. So if you are the type of person that, you know, is going to be really annoyed when some stripes go up and down and some go sideways in your quilt block, be careful with Cotton Cuts pre-cut kits. I don't care. It can be chaotic. It can go every which way, and that's fine. So I have a lot of fun, and I love getting those pre-cut packages and the diagrams, and you just lay everything out and start sewing. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, Amanda, I just go by the fabric. It took me several years to take the plunge and jump in on some of these mystery quilts, but I love the process. It's a lot of fun, and there's so many great people. That's how I met most of you guys watching tonight, is through the Cotton Cuts mystery quilt. So it's a great community. And I did have to laugh that Cotton Cuts is doing an Under the Sea theme when we just had the Sea Abyss challenge with cotton or cherrywood, getting my sea names mixed up. Hi, Tasha. Great to have you on board. Thanks for tuning in. Oh, thanks, Katie. Yeah, Sean. I love this, the chain of friendship that links all of us quilters, because I have followed Chris O'Neill from Sew the Distance for many, many years. Love her series of thrifted quilts, lessons from an old quilt. And I had her on my podcast, actually. I co-host a podcast called Quilting on the Side, And Tori and I talk about the business aspects of quilting. So if any of you are interested in turning your craft into a business, need some support in that area, check out our podcast, Quilting on the Side. We just wrapped up season 4. We do have a YouTube channel, so all of our podcasts, if you don't like listening to podcasts, you can watch us. Every episode is on YouTube as well. So we interviewed Chris, and she was talking about cotton cuts because she was doing a mystery quilt at the time, and she mentioned Sean, and so I followed Sean and had him on the podcast, and and then just met, it has cascaded with Deb and Annette and Katie and Karen. Are you on the Sean's Saturday morning lives? I know I've met a bunch of you there. And Amanda from Stitching Life Together and Tasha, actually, I met through the podcast. So it's just like this wonderful community. Yes, Katie, we need to exchange interview times. We'd love to hear your story on our podcast, and I would love to come on your channel as well. So we will have to get offline and set that up. Thank you, Amanda. She is my podcast groupie. It's so nice. I had so much fun at QuiltCon wearing my podcast t-shirt, and people came up and tap me on the shoulder. I listened to your podcast. So that's fun. Yes, Katie. Very simple, at truebluequilts.com. Did I put a dot in there or a comma? Or anyone else that wants to chat through email, I'm happy to do that as well. So, okay, everybody go over to the Cheeky Quilter, say hi to Amber, tell her I sent you, and I will see you back here next week. Have a great day.